errors which do not affect the trial balance totals. That is what we are going to discuss this morning. How do we correct them? But I want you to note that the errors which do not affect the trial balance, they don't affect the trial balance simply because in one way or another, the effect on the debit is the same effect on the credit. So how the debit side has been affected, the credit side has also been affected in the same way. So at the end of the day, the totals of the trial balance will balance, but we have committed some errors. So I want us to go through these two questions, question number 1 and question number 2, and then we discuss how do we correct such kind of errors. This is what you can come across in your examination, and then when we meet on Sunday, we shall look at the past paper questions, and then we will be good to go. So the errors which do not affect the totals of the trial balance. So question number 1 says, show the journal entries necessary to correct the following errors. A sale of goods 412 to Timor had been entered in Timor's account. How do we correct that? So I want you to open your document so that now I can go to the board. Somebody is asking where the link is. The link is under which topic? Is it topic 6 or what? On the LMS. Somebody who can confirm that.
Under topic 5.
Topic 4.
Topic 4.
Yes, topic 4.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me respond to this. Okay. Just open your document so that now we can go through the question together. So we are told that show the journal entries necessary to correct the following errors. When you want to correct the errors, you normally prepare what we call a general journal. A general journal. That is where we correct errors. The general journal will have the format of the date. If there is no date, you can use the serial number of the question or transaction. Then we shall have the details. We shall have the debits and the credits. That is our general journal. That is our general journal. So the date of the transaction or the error, the details here you record the account to be debited and the account to be credited, but always start by recording the account to be debited. The account to be debited should be at the top, followed by the account to be credited. And then there you record the debit amount, and then you record the credit amount, and you are done. So let us go to transaction A. So we are not given dates for these particular transactions, but the transactions are serialized. So we can have there A. A sale of goods 412 to Timor had been entered in T-Money's account. Remember, I told you it is going to be very easy for you to correct these errors if you have the knowledge or you understand the posting of transaction in ledger accounts. So the moment you read that statement, a sale of goods to Timor, you need now to figure out very fast, when that happens, which account should be debited and which one should be credited. From what we know, sale of goods simply means that we credit the sales account. Sales account is always credited. Then we debit the customer. We credit sales, we debit the customer. But now, read further. Where did the error occur? The error occurred in the sense that instead of recording in Timor, we recorded in T-Money account. That is where the issue is. Actually, sales account does not have any issue. The issue here, or the error, is in, instead of debiting the correct customer who is Timor, we debited T-Money. So what do we do? What do we do? Correction of error will entail you cancel where there is a wrong entry, or you reverse the wrong entry, and then you post it correctly. You reverse the wrong entry, then you post it correctly. How do you reverse? You reverse by, if it was a wrong debit, you credit that account. If it was a wrong credit, you debit that account. In this case, let me go further. Sale of goods to Timor, we were supposed to debit Timor, but we debited T-Money. So in T-Money, because it's a wrong account, we need to reverse that. It was debited there, but it was not supposed to be debited there. So we reverse by crediting T-Money, and then we debit the correct account, which is Timor. So here, under the details, we shall come and record the correct account to be debited, or the account to be debited, which is Timor, and it is 412. Then we go to T-Money. This one we shall credit by 412, like that. And that one is corrected. That one is corrected. So understand why we have debited Timor. Timor, we have debited it because it was the correct account to be debited from the word go, but it was never debited. We went and debited T-Money. So in T-Money, because it was a wrong debit there, we reverse that transaction by crediting, so that that transaction is cancelled. Now we transfer it to the correct account, which is for Timor. Understood?
Yes.
Okay, let us go to B and see what happened there. Under B, we are told the purchase of machine on credit from J. Frank for 619 had been completely omitted from our books. Completely omitted. When it is a complete omission, which is simply the error of omission, your work is very simple. You need to note which account was to be debited and which account was to be credited if this account was to be recorded. If this account was to be recorded, which account we would have debited and which one we could have credited. So when you purchase a you purchase a machine, which is a fixed asset, you debit that asset, which is the machine that you have acquired. Then you credit, if it is on credit, you will credit the supplier, who is J. Frank. Who is J. Frank. You debit what you have received, you credit the supplier if it is on credit. So this simply was supposed to be recorded as you debit the machine by 6.
Mwalimu, excuse me.
Yes?
The purchase of a machine on credit from Frank. J. Frank is the creditor, right?
J. Frank is a creditor, is it correct?
I thought it was purchases, or bought when you buy goods, that is when it is purchases.
Okay, let me respond. Don't mistake or confuse a fixed asset with goods. Or let me put it differently. When you buy Not everything is recorded in purchases. We have got the limitations. We have got the restrictions of what goes to purchases. Purchases is only meant to record goods, which is the same as stock, only meant for stock. But when it is a fixed asset, an asset that you are buying for the purpose of running the business with it and for the long period of time without any intention of selling it, it is not under purchases. It is going to be recorded in its own name account or the account under its own name. So we cannot put it in purchases because it was not stock. It was simply an item to be used in the business, and actually we don't know when the business will dispose it. So anytime you buy a fixed asset is a something that you are not buying it with the intention of selling. You don't record it under the purchases. Catherine?
Mwalimu, I have a question about that.
Yes.
For instance, when in an exam room and you confuse, and instead of opening a fixed account, you open a purchase, post it correctly. Now, my question is, will you get wrong because of
Yes. That is a very wrong entry from the word go. It is in the wrong account.
the whole question?
Yes. No, not the whole question, but that, you know, I told you that in accounting, we don't mark the entire question. We mark entries, each and every transaction,
Yes.
how you recorded it. So for that particular transaction, you will not get any mark. But for the others, if they are correct, you will get the correct marks for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
But at this point, just note that, and it is always going to be like that. Goods, it is for purchases. But any fixed asset, machine, equipment, furniture, computers, all those, they are under, or they should be recorded under the year account name. So in this
Very
case,
clear, Mwalimu.
yes, in this case, debit the machine, 619. Then we credit the supplier who is J. Frank, 619. That one is corrected. We go to C. This says that the purchase of a computer. Hapo ukifika hapo unastahili hata kukuwa umejua what will happen. The purchase of a computer. A computer is another fixed asset. We should record it in computer account. Let us proceed and see what happened. For 550 had been entered in error in the office expenses account. When you buy a fixed asset, that fixed asset is not an expense. An expense are those things that we pay for, but we cannot actually be able to see them in the business. Actually, they are intangible or they are known as the operating costs. But when you buy any fixed asset, when you buy stock, which is purchases, those are not expenses because those are the things that you can be able to see on how you spend your money. So when you buy any fixed asset, you record it in the fixed asset account. But the mistake here, instead of opening the computer account and debiting it, we went ahead to debit the office expenses, which is now not of the same class. So how are we going to correct that? How are we going to correct that? So in this case, we should debit the correct account which was supposed to be debited, which is the computer, by the amount which is 550. And then look here, it was entered as office expenses, and we all know that expenses are also debited. So the issue here was we debited office expenses instead of debiting the computer. So when an entry has been made in the wrong account, we normally reverse it. If it was debited there erroneously, you credit it. So in this case, office computers were debited on behalf of computer. So we credit the office expenses to reverse that initial transaction. So we shall come here and credit office expenses by 550. That one is again sorted. So it is a matter of taking it where it is supposed to be and cancelling where it was wrongly entered. Cancel, put it on the opposite side. If it was treated as a debit entry, treat it as a credit entry now. B, a sale of 120 to B Wood had been entered in the books, both the debit and credit, as 102. B Wood has been entered in the book sold. What the statement is simply saying that we sold goods on credit to B Wood, but yes, we went ahead and opened the sales account and we opened the B Wood account. B Wood account being a debtor, is debited, sales was credited, but the problem that we did, we used a wrong amount in both accounts. We debited B Wood with 102. We credited sales with 102. So anytime you are given a question like this, whereby we are given the correct amount and the wrong amount that was used, first of all, get the difference. The difference is those two amounts. In this case, what is the difference between 120 and 102?
18.
18, correct. Now the question is, did we record 18 less or 18 more?
Less.
Yes, we used 102 instead of 120, so we recorded 18 less. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So in this case, it's like we are supposed to add 18 because we have already 102 there. We add 18 so that 102 plus 18 that we are going to add, it can total the correct amount, which is 120. So how are you going to do it? Because it is an undercast. This is actually an undercast of 18 because it is less. So the account which was debited, you debit again with 18. The account which was credited, you credit again with 18 so that you can top up there. So B Wood, being a debtor, was debited by 102. Now we shall come here and debit again, but now we use 18 so that we can add to the 102 that was recorded there. Come here again, sales was credited with 102. We credit again with 18 so that now it can total 120. Total 120. E. E. Commission received 164 had been entered in error in the sales account.
A question on the same.
Yes.
What happens if it is less? Are we going to record with a negative?
No. If this one was less, huh? This one was 18 less. Were you asking maybe about less or more? This one was less, huh? So when
I'm
is
saying
less,
if
yes.
proceed.
I want you to ask your question so that I can respond correctly.
I'm saying, like for now, for this, it was less.
Yes.
What if it is more?
If it is
Like
more,
whatever is recorded is more.
we could have now, not with a negative, don't record it with a negative, but what you do, you record it but on the opposite side. Like for example, if it is in the, if it was an overcast of 18, if it was an overcast of 18, what we will do, the account which was debited, we will credit by 18. And the one which was credited, we will debit by 18. Actually, it's like we are reversing that difference, which is now the overcast. Like in this case, sales would have been debited by 18, B would have been credited by 18. To subtract an amount, you record it on the other side. But to add, you record it on the same side. So here we are adding, and B wood was debited by 102. So we are debiting again by 18. Again here, sales was credited by 102. We credit again because we are adding. But if we were to subtract as a result of an overcast, we could have done the opposite. Because maybe sales was credited by 138. we will now debit sales by 18, so that 138 that is on the credit minus 18 that is on the debit, we shall have a balance of 120. Are we together?
Yeah, Mwalimu, thank you.
Yes, yes. So when it is an overcast, we normally record it on the opposite side. Okay, somebody is saying my handwriting is not okay. But I hope as I write, I am explaining. So maybe you can be able to know what I'm writing there. Sorry, I'll try to adjust. So we are at E. Commission received 164 had been entered in error in the sales account. You know, anything that is revenue, any source of revenue, whether it is commission received, rent received, including also sales, those accounts are normally credited. Those accounts are normally credited. Rent received, commission received, interest received, dividend received, sales received, all those are normally credited. But now here, it was an issue of crediting a wrong account. Instead of crediting commission received, we credited sales account. So what do we do that? How do you do that? We shall credit the correct account, which is commission received. But for sales, it has got a wrong credit. It was credited on behalf of commission received. So because it was credited wrongly and it was not supposed to be credited, we reverse by debiting. To reverse, if it was a wrong credit, you debit. So we shall debit sales to cancel. We shall debit sales to cancel the wrong credit that was made there of 120. Sorry, is it 120 or 164? We shall debit 164 on sales and credit commission received of 164. Understand why we are doing these entries. Sales we are debiting because we are told it was entered there by mistake. So to reverse an entry that is on the wrong account, you simply take it on the other side of the same wrong account. It was credited wrongly, now we debit. So the credit that was made there minus this debit, that account has got zero balance. That account has got zero balance, and that entry has been cancelled. Then we transferred the correct account, which is commission received, which was supposed to be credited. F. A receipt of cash from T. Blair, 68, had been entered on the credit side of the cash book and the debit side of, yes?
You're saying sales is debited because it was on the other side. Sales is always okay. Sales is credited.
Yes.
In this case, it was debited.
Anyway, I want us to go slowly to that statement. The statement says commission received of 164 has been entered in sales account. Whatever you are saying is very correct and very true. But now let us take ourselves to correcting the error. Sales we know is always credited, very correct. But in this statement, it was credited on behalf of commission received. So it was credited erroneously. It was an error that occurred in that account. It was not supposed to be credited. It was commission received that was supposed to be credited. Now we are debiting it to cancel that wrong credit. It was credited correct, but it was credited erroneously. An error occurred there. So we are debiting, cancel that wrong credit. Are we together?
It's clear. Yes. Yes.
Now we go to this one that is saying that a receipt of cash from T-Brayer. The good thing with errors, before even you complete the statement, already you have digested the statement in your head. A receipt of cash from T-Brayer, who is a customer, obvious. When that happens, the cash or bank, in this case, actually cash and bank combined, we normally call them cash book. Cash and bank combined, we normally call them cash book. So when you receive either cash or a check, you normally debit the cash book. You normally debit either cash or bank. And then you credit where the money is coming from. You debit the cash or bank, which is the cash book, and then you credit where the money is coming from. In this case, we credit T-Brayer. But if you complete now that statement, you realize that they did the opposite. Instead of debiting the cash book, it was entered on the credit side of the cash book and debit side of T-Brayer. That is what we call the error of complete reversal entries. We have interchanged those entries. The account of to be debited has been credited. The one to be credited has been debited. We said this, when that happens, you should record them on the correct side, but always remember to double the amount. Always remember to double the amount. In this case, we shall come and say F. We should debit the cash book. Yes. But the amount here was 68. We should now do 68 times 2. 68 times 2 gives us
136.
136. Then we credit T there by 136. Why are we debiting and crediting with the double the amount? Remember, as we correct this error, if, for example, we are referring to the cash book, there is 68 that was credited there by mistake. There is 68 there that was credited, and that amount was not supposed to be on that credit side. It was supposed to be on the debit. So we shall be doing two things at a go. One, we are canceling the wrong credit. So we debit by 68. That is where the first 68 will go to cancel the wrong credit. Then the next 68, we are posting it. We are canceling and posting it at the same time. We are canceling and posting at the same time. We cancel the wrong 68 by 68. Then we post 68 on the debit side. So we will have posted 68 twice. That's why it is 68 times 2. The same thing is happening here. T-Brayer was debited instead of being credited. So the first 68 is to cancel the wrong debit. Then the next 68, we are posting it on the credit side because that is where it was supposed to be. We are canceling and posting at the same time. Canceling and posting at the same time. G, a purchase of goods, 372, had been entered in error on the debit side of the drawings account. A purchase of goods. When we said it is goods, we should debit purchases. Now, the issue here is instead of debiting purchases, we debited drawings. And we know drawings is only supposed to record items taken from the business for personal use. For personal use. So in simple terms, we debited drawings instead of debiting purchases. What do? Debit the correct account, which is purchases, by a figure of 372. Then you credit drawings. Why are we crediting drawings? It was debited on behalf of purchases. So we are canceling. We are canceling. It was not supposed to be debited. So we credit by 372 to reverse or to cancel that wrong entry that was made there. You cancel where it was entered wrongly. Bronze was debited. Now we credit. That is just reversing. Then debit the correct account, which is purchases. Lastly, H, discounts allowed 48. You pause there. Once you read discount allowed is an expense, so it should be debited. All expenses, when they are paid, they are supposed to be debited. So discount allowed is an expense. It should be debited. So let us confirm what happened. Had been entered in error on the debit of discount received. You see now, instead of debiting discount allowed, we have debited discount received. Those two are different. Discount received is another account completely. So here, what do? Discount allowed, we have agreed it was supposed to be debited. So we should debit it. We should debit the correct account, which is discount allowed. Okay, 48. Then the statement says has been credited in discount received. Has been debited, sorry, in discount received. So what do? If it is a wrong debit, so discount received has been debited erroneously. How do you cancel that error? You reverse it by crediting. If it was entered on the debit of discount received, then we should reverse it by crediting discount received, because that transaction was not supposed to be in discount received from the one go. So we come here and credit discount received by 48, and you are done. Your work is done. Canceling and posting it where it is supposed to be. You can agree with me, if you have got good foundation on the ledgers, this one is just a work in the So anytime you want to do some errors, just refresh yourself on ledgers. Just watch the videos on ledgers. Understand how each and every category of items are treated. How do we treat expenses? They are always debited. How do we treat revenues? Discount received, rent received, sales, commission received, they are credited, and so on and so forth. Once you have those in your fingertips, correction of errors will be very smooth. That is how question number 1 was supposed to be handled. That is how question number 1 is supposed to be handled. You debit and credit the accounts that is supposed to be done so. So, and as you do so, always remember the rule of preparing the journal entries is always start with the account to be debited. Account to be debited, to be credited. Account to be debited, account to be credited. Debited, credited. So the debit account should be at the top, followed by the one to be credited. Then you close. The account to be debited, the account to be credited, you close. So don't do the opposite. Don't start with the account to be credited and then the account to be debited. Always start with the account to be debited, then below it, write the account to be credited. So the account to be debited, you put the amount on the debit. The account to be credited, you put the amount on the credit. Okay. We now go to question number 2. Now that we have got an idea, I think question number 2, we can move it a bit faster. So question number 2 is here. Also says that show the
Sure, I have a question.
yes.
So that is the end of question 1. There's no anything like balancing or something?
No. We don't balance the general journal. We don't
Okay, thank you.
balance. Leave it at that point. So question number 2 is here. So we have the serial numbers of those transactions. Details. So the first error that occurred there. Just a minute. Just a minute. The first error A says that purchases 1410 on credit from A Ray had been entered in B rolls. You know, now when you are told a statement or when you are given a statement like that, purchases from this has been entered in this account. You know, there is no any issue in purchases. Purchases has no issue there. The issue is on the supplier's account. We purchased goods from A Ray, but instead of crediting that particular creditor who is the supplier, we credited another one. When you purchase, you debit purchases, you credit the supplier. Purchases account was well executed, but now the issue is on the supplier. Instead of A Ray, we went and recorded in B roll. So how do we handle that case? The case is simple to handle. The account where it was wrongly credited, we reverse, we debit it. Then we credit the correct one. The correct one is A Ray. B Roy was simply credited by mistake. So if it was credited by mistake, we reverse it by debiting B Roy. Then we credit the correct one, which is A Ray. A Ray. So the purchases has no issue. The issue is on the name of the supplier that was credited. And actually, they will not tell you that whether it was credited. It is you to know when you purchase, you debit purchases, then you credit the supplier. So therefore, the issue is the one who was credited was the wrong one. We should credit the correct one. But the wrong one, we should reverse it. We debit that account. We debit it all. 5, 14, 10. Then we credit the correct one, which is A Ray. 5, 14, 10. B, a purchase of 94 paid for printing. Remember, printing is an expense. Huh? Sorry, what have I said? A check of 94 paid for printing. So yes, we have got the rules of preparing these statements. Don't start with the account to be credited and then the account to be debited. It's a rule of preparing journal entries. start with the account to be debited, then the account to be credited for you to earn the marks, earn the marks. So before you write it down, have a discussion with yourself. Find out which one should be debited. So you should start it by it, and then you credit the other one. It is now the standard way of preparing the general journal or passing the journal entries. Okay, then let me proceed to that B. A check of 94 paid for printing. You should maybe have this understanding that printing is an expense. So we were supposed to debit the printing account, had been entered in the cash column of the cash book instead of in the bank column. If I can make that statement simple for you, we paid for printing by check. When we pay by check, we should credit bank because that is where the money would be reducing, and debit printing. The mistake that happened here, it is instead of crediting bank, we credited cash. Instead of crediting bank, we credited cash. So here you see, we credited cash by mistake. We credited cash by mistake. Therefore, we should reverse that. We should reverse that mistake. How do we reverse a mistake that was on the credit of the cash? We debit cash. We debit cash to reverse the wrong credit that was made there. So in B, we shall be forced to debit cash, I-94, and then credit bank, I-94. One, bank is the correct one that was supposed to be credited because it is a payment. Yes, Catherine?
Mwalimu, you had said when you see check, it means that is bank. Yet you had said printing is an expense.
Yes.
This is so confusing because a check paid for printing.
Yes.
And then you said that the cash book is cash and bank.
Yes.
So how are we supposed to know when you're given something like cash book? How are we supposed to know it is only cash? Because you're given cash book and you're given bank. And you said cash book is cash and bank.
Okay, let me read the statement so that we can be able to fine-tune areas that are not clear. A check of 94 paid for printing had been entered in the cash column. They have not talked about the cash book here. They are specific. They have, or that amount has been entered in the cash column of the cash book. When you are cash book, we actually from here we are heading there, the cash books. So the cash book, I have said it is simply cash and bank combined. So here we shall be having the cash column and the bank column. Something like that. So if it is a payment in cash, we record it in the cash. If it is a payment that is made in the bank, we record it in this way. And this is the payment side of the cash book. And actually,
So there's nothing like printing as an expense. We just take cash and bank, period.
I want to go down to this statement on. You know, I have told you, maybe I can repeat. If you read the statement, it should guide you where the error occurred. Here, it was a check that was paid for printing. Very well. But now, if you read that statement further, it will tell you where the error occurred. The error does not involve printing. Printing was well recorded. It was well debited. It was well debited. The issue was on where the amount was credited. The issue is where the amount was credited. Because we are told a check paid for printing in there had been entered in the cash column of the cash book instead of the bank column. So your understanding should be when I pay for printing, I should debit the printing account and then I should credit the cash book. But now in the cash book specifically, I should credit the bank. I should credit the bank. Clear?
Clear.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Let me see. There was another concern here. Okay. Mwalimu, does that mean you start with a credit entry? Okay, I think I responded to that. The other one is, why are we crediting the bank and it is money out? This is actually, let me respond it like this. When it is money out, it is always credited. When we pay, it is always credited. Money out is always a credit entry. It's always a credit. That is very correct. It is not actually a mistake. When you pay, we always credit, either cash or bank. So I don't know whether you had a different understanding, but if you had it differently, then I have to change it now. Anytime you pay something, you must credit cash or bank. You pay for expense or printing, you credit. You pay for salaries, you credit. You buy goods on check, you credit bank. Bank and cash are always credited when it is a payment. We only debit them when it is a receipt of money. When it is a receipt of money. So it is credited because it is a payment. That is actually the correct position. I see. So when you are doing the errors, the correction of errors, you need to go specifically where the error occurred so that you don't involve an account that has no issue. Don't involve an account that has no issue. Just go straight to where the issue is. Let us do C. Sale of goods 734 on credit to D rolls had been entered in error in D rolls. Just as hapo makosa ni, we have entered.
Mwalimu,
Yes.
good morning. My name is Keegan.
Your name is?
Keegan.
Yes, Keegan.
I'm a new student.
Yes,
I've just, you've just said that when you pay salaries from any payment is credited. I thought that to debit means to remove money from your account. And to credit means to bring in money to your account. So if you are making a payment, crediting or debit. Thank you.
Okay, I understand, Keegan. If you are a new student, I understand it. And actually, you are right. But now your statement or your argument, it is from the bank's perspective. From the bank's perspective, that is exactly what they do. But from the cash book or from the accountant in the business perspective, we normally do it the way I have explained. So in the cash book, when we pay, we credit cash or bank. When we receive money, we debit cash or bank. But on the bank's side, at the back end of the bank, they do the opposite. When money is received in your account, they will credit. And when money is paid out of your bank account, they debit. And that one will be demonstrated very well when we shall go to the topic known as bank reconciliation statements. When we shall be reconciling the cash book and the bank statement. That one we shall actually emphasize, and actually we shall iron out any issue that is there. I know where you are coming from. And actually that is the correct position. Even me, I know when money is received in my account is normally credited. And when I make any payment from my bank account, my bank is normally debited. But that is now from the bank. But from the business, the accountant has got the cash book maintained. In the cash book, we normally do the opposite of what the bank is doing. What is paid, we credit. When money is coming in, we debit our cash book. Are we together, Keegan?
Thank you. Maybe I will understand as we get along.
Yes. Yes. So here, when we are handling this unit, we put ourselves in the shoes of the business accountant and not maybe from the bank accountant. We are now the business owners, how we are preparing our books of accounts from our business end. And then the bank will be doing the work from the other end. Then at the end of the period, we request for the bank statement. That bank statement we compare with our cash book that we have prepared. Then we do the reconciliation. It will be discussed and you are going to understand it very well. But at this point, just understand we are talking from you being the owner of the business, and now you are maintaining this particular statements from your end, not from the bank's end, from your end, how it is going to be happening. And then that difference on reconciliation, I think we shall do it, or we shall have to understand it better, how it is going to be happening. Okay, thank you for that. C says sale of goods 734 on credit to D rolls had been entered in error to D rolls. So when you are given the name of a person, just know that the error occurred on the account of the person that we entered. The sales haina shida. Sales haina shida. The issue here, it is on those two people. We entered in D rolls instead of D rolls. Don't bring sales in this conversation here. Haina shida yote. The issue is the account of the persons. The account of the person. So in this case, when you sell, you credit sales, you debit the person buying. You debit the person buying. In this case, the correct person was D rolls, but we entered in D rolls. So we debited D rolls by mistake. So D rolls, because was debited by mistake, hiyo kazi yake tu ni kureverse. We shall credit D rolls, then we debit the correct person who is D rolls. D rolls, which is going to be 734. Then credit D rolls by 734. So when you are handling this, you need to have that self-conversation. When you sell, you credit sales, you debit the customer. So what happened? In this case, it is the customers that were wrongly entered. So we correct on the customer's end. Debit the correct customer, credit the wrong customer that was debited. D. Purchase of goods on credit. When you purchase on credit, debit purchases, credit the supplier. On credit from L hand 819 entered in the correct accounts, in error as 891. 891. So you see, it was purchase of 819 from L hand, but instead of using 819, we used 891. Again, when you are given two figures, get the difference. The difference of 891 minus 819. That one gives us a difference of how much?
72.
72, correct. Now, after getting the difference, the next question will be, is it an overcast or an undercast? It was supposed to be 819, but was entered in error as 891. So we entered more. It is an overcast. It is an overcast. When it is an overcast, we are supposed to subtract. We are supposed to subtract 72 from each account. Let me go back again. When you purchase, you debit purchases. But we debited purchases with 72 extra. So we shall reverse 72 in purchases. So we shall credit purchases by 72. Note the reason why we are crediting. Note the difference, the reason why we are crediting. We debited purchases by 72 extra. We need to reverse that extra. To reverse a debit entry, you credit. So we shall credit purchases by 72 simply because we are reversing the extra amount, 72. Then the other person who is L hand, who is the supplier, was credited by 72 extra. Was credited by 72 extra. To reverse that 72 from the credit, we shall debit L hand shall debit L and by 72. Note why we are debiting. We are debiting to reverse the extra, which is 72. And then we shall credit the purchases by 72. That is how this error will be corrected. This is an overcast. An overcast, you reverse the difference. You reverse the difference. You reverse the difference. That's why we have reversed this in the purchases, because purchases was debited 72 extra. We reverse 72 by crediting. This one was credited by 72 extra. We reverse the 72 by debiting. That error is sorted out. E, cash paid to G Boyd 64 entered on the debit of the cash book and the credit side of G Boyd. So you need to ask yourself again here. You know, when you are purchasing, you debit purchases, you credit the supplier. But when you are paying the supplier, remember this supplier was credited at the point of purchase. When you are paying the supplier, you now debit the supplier and then credit cash or bank because it is money out. You debit the supplier when you are paying, but when you are buying, you credit the supplier. When you are paying, you debit the supplier, then you credit cash or bank. If you read this statement now, it is a complete reversal. Because it says cash paid to G Boyd 64 entered on the debit of the cash book. We cannot debit the cash book when we are paying. When we are paying, we should credit the cash book and then debit the person we are paying. Debit the person we are paying. And the moment it is a reversal, remember the accounts are okay. The only problem we recorded on the opposite sides. So we should double the amount. We should record on the correct side, but double the amount. And the reason is we are canceling the wrong entry and then posting it the correct side. So here, the account that was supposed to be debited is for G Boyd. Here, the amount is 64. 64 times 2, 128. Then you credit and write here the cash. 100 and why G Boyd was supposed to be debited, but remember there is around 64 that is on the credit. There is 64 that is on the credit. So the first 64 is to cancel that wrong credit. Then the next 64, we debit it now because it was supposed to be debited. We are canceling and posting at the same time. The next one. A sale of fittings, we normally call them furnitures and fittings. 320 had been entered in the sales account. Okay. The purchases and the sales accounts, they are purely meant to handle goods. Purchases and sales accounts, they are purely left to handle goods. Buying of goods, we debit purchases. Selling of goods, we credit sales. But when you buy and sell a fixed asset, we should debit and credit that particular fixed asset. If you buy fittings, you debit fittings account. If you sell fittings, you should credit fittings account. So we should not bring issues to do with fixed assets in either purchases or sales account. So in this case, when you sell a fittings, which is a fixed asset, we should credit the fittings account. But the mistake that happened here, we credited sales account. When you do so, you do a reversal. In the sales, remember you have credited by mistake instead of crediting fittings. So you reverse. If you have credited sales by mistake, to reverse that, you debit the sales by 20. Then you credit the correct account which was supposed to be credited, fittings, 320. purchases and sales, bring them to handle issues to do with goods. Buy goods, debit purchases. Sell goods, credit sales. But when you buy any fixed asset, debit that fixed asset. When you sell it, credit the same account of that fixed asset. That is that. Then cash withdrawn from the bank, 200, had been entered in the cash column on the credit side of the cash book and in the bank column on the debit side of the cash book. So what are they simply trying to say? It is another reversal. Yes, it is. Cash withdrawn from the bank. When you withdraw money from the bank to be used in the business, you normally debit cash, then you credit bank. When you withdraw money from the bank for business use, you debit cash because cash will be receiving that money. You credit bank because bank is like going to be making a payment. It's a withdrawal. You credit there. But if you read the statement now, it tells that the opposite was done. Instead of debiting cash, we are told, and the crediting bank, we are told here, had been entered in the cash column on the credit side. You cannot record it on the credit side of cash, and it is cash that is receiving. Cash is receiving that money from the bank. So cash was supposed to be recorded on the debit side, and the bank, because it is the one that is making the payment, is supposed to be recorded on the credit side. So because it is the reverse of entries, double the amount, double the amount. Record the correct account to be debited, and now use 200 times 2. Then go ahead and credit bank. Lastly, H. Purchase of goods 1182 has been entered in error in the furnishings account. Furnishings account. So that is simple now. Instead of debiting purchases, we debited furnishings. So what do? We cancel that entry in the furnishings. We debit the correct account, which is purchases. Debit the correct account, which is purchases, 1182. Credit or reverse the wrong account, furnishings, 1182. And you are sorted. You are sorted. Can I get some questions from you now? Are you comfortable?
Yes, Mwalimu, I'm just curious. I'm going to share with us some of the past papers so that we can practice the same topic.
Sorry, I don't know whether you can repeat that. There's echo. I don't know whether it is an echo or your internet is not stable. Come again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
No.
Okay, let me type.
Just type. Anybody else with a question?
Mwalimu, I was wondering if we could name, like per transaction for this second question, whether we could name what error it is, so that when we are revising with the question, we can, you know what error you are correcting, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And then when we go to the subsequent questions that we shall be handling, we shall be able to do that. But anything that is talking about the names of persons, we know that is an error of commission. This one talking about the name of person, this is an error of commission. The same case here, even if it is not the same person, even if it is not the same person, it's also an error of commission. Because cash and bank, we normally consider them to be on the same class. Let me respond to this. Okay. If there is some past papers, question for practice. Yes, we have. I don't know. Yes, we have. We have the past papers. I shared the past papers. Maybe you joined later on. I will share the document, and then you can be able to go through those questions in different years to identify the questions that tested on errors so that you can be able to try. Yes, we have the past papers. And actually, if you go even to the LMS, there's somewhere the e-library. The e-library again, you can get all those past papers there. Anything talking about the names of persons, the roles, and this one is another error of commission. This one we were talking about different amounts, the wrong amounts that were used. This is an error of original entry when we use the wrong amounts in both accounts. And then this one is an error of complete reversal. Remember, we doubled the amount. This is an error of complete reversal. This is an error of principle. Error of principle. When we are using the wrong class of accounts, sales and fittings are different classes of accounts. So this is an error of principle. This one, cash and bank, we normally consider them to be on the same class because they record money in and money out. This is an error of commission. This one is also, the last one is an error of principle when we are talking about accounts of different class. Actually, when we shall be doing, on Sunday, we shall have a class. When we shall be doing those questions, then we shall also try to give some few narrations at the bottom of each and every error. Being the error of commission corrected and all that, we shall do it in this. But this one, I wanted you to have a very fast understanding about the errors. To narrate it is something obvious. So,
sorry, Mwalimu, the second last, where the cash and bank,
yes.
you said where the cash and bank, that's an error of commission, but here we double the amount. Is it not complete reverse?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We doubled the amount is an error of a complete reversal. It is an error of complete reversal. Correct. Thank you. So, we have a class on Sunday from 4. We finish on the errors so that next week we can go to the cash book. And then after cash book, we go to the reconciliation. So kindly attend the class from 4 Sunday. And if there is anybody else with a question, you can ask. But if there is none, we can call it a class for today.
Mwalimu, it's a kind request.
Yes.
Some of us work on Sundays.
Yes. What was your request? You went off as maybe okay. Mwalimu requests to share all the videos on LMS. Okay, I think all the videos that so far we have done are on LMS. All of them. Any video that or any class that we have held, whether it is on our normal class or on Sunday, I've shared those videos on the LMS. You will find them there. You will find them there. Even this one, maybe by tomorrow you will have it on the LMS.
Another question, Mwalimu.
Sorry?
Another question.
Yes, another question.
Yeah, I tried to contribute to the discussion on the LMS, but it still says that you've not allocated us the groups. So there is no way someone can contribute on the discussion forum.
Okay. I think I've not activated some things there. I will do so. Thank you for the reminder.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Mwalimu,